Welcome to Master of the Game. I am Juice. This is Paula, and we're going to do our best to give you a noble video here for RPG a Day. So let's get started. Today is day 20 of RPG a Day, and the word is noble. So I think there's a lot of ways that you could, talk about this word. It's pretty broad. I mean, you could go with like political intrigue. You could talk about like a character who had a noble background. Some of this stuff we've already talked about in the series a little bit. Like I've talked about like Brian's noble character and things like that. And that was originally the first thing that came to mind. But I don't really want it. Well, and the reason is because my character actually had a background like that too. But he was a Goliath barbarian, so it was a different take on what a noble would be like in their tribes. And because of it, and because he understood the culture difference, I was trying to make my character slowly become more like what was accepted among Brian's character's society. That's why I was starting to buy clothes and stuff. But I was going to talk more about like getting into noble families and political intrigue. Is that what you want to talk about? I'll let you talk about that.
It's fine. Go ahead.
No, I'll stick with my character.
No, you go ahead. And
well, because I didn't really have anything defining to say. Most of it was more questions.
Well, neither did I. So go ahead.
So when it comes to political intrigue games, the thing I struggle with is like weaving in the Game of Thrones type of aspect where like there's backstabbing and it's believable and like you don't feel like it's a gotcha moment on the players. Because I feel like a lot of that can come across like, oh, you just hand waved it and screwed us. And that's, as a player, I don't always like that. It kind of sucks when you are put into a lose-lose situation, it feels. But you don't know if there was a way around it. Like, that's tough. But, like, so I try not to do that to my players. I know you can do things where you're trying to solve the mystery of the political intrigue, where you're like an outsider coming in to help them figure out who's on what side and who's really the bad guy, who murdered Mrs. blah, blah, blah over here. And, all these things.
I think you need to have the right players for that type of thing because you need to have people who are going to get more into like the RP aspect
and
of
the mystery. And
and who appreciate the mystery because not everybody is into mystery types of games.
Or the political backstabbing and posturing.
Yes.
Right.
So I think you have to have the right people, and I think it's good to... I always think, in general, as a player and as a DM, it's good to either let your players know or know as a player what you're kind of getting into.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Ahead of time. Like,
or let them know after the fact what they could have done sometimes.
Well, no, I mean,
I do that sometimes.
Before you're even starting the game, like, hey, we're gonna do like a political mystery.
But what if it's not the whole campaign? What if you're like level 9 and it's now I got this idea to change the landscape of the world with like this couple power play moves in politics.
That's fine. That's fine.
Now you're not
want to do that.
I mean, I'm not gonna warn you guys ahead of time.
I think
because it might ruin the surprise. And surprise is awesome. If you can catch your players off guard with a good surprise, it doesn't have to be beneficial.
Yes. So I was thinking that you were going with an entire like overarching like storyline. You're talking about just like a small subset.
It's pretty section. No, I'm open to whatever. A little bit of this, a little bit of there. I don't like to run a straight this is the whole campaign. I like to mix things up, So for example, you start small and then build to this epic thing. So the game at level 4 is going to be different than the game at level 14.
Right. Yeah, of course
like completely.
But I think it's good as a player going into it knowing like what type of campaign you're getting into, what type of things
which you do at character creation, session 0.
Yeah, but not everybody does that. I think people need to get a little bit better about doing that and to kind of give you a little bit of... Because I also think it's really nice, too, if everybody shows up to a session 0 together, you sort of start to form those, especially if you haven't played together before, how are we going to kind of come
Right.
together? What types of personalities do we have here? Who can I
Right.
play off of? What types of characters, like, is everybody else making, so you can get an idea before you show up? Kind of like how you want to, you know, throw things
Right.
together, how you want it to work out.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I've talked about session zeros on this. There's a lot of videos from other people about session zeros. And I've tried to do that with some of our groups where ahead of time, and then when we've gotten together, rather than them like even caring about some of that stuff, they usually are just asking me questions about feats. Do you allow this? Do you allow this? What about this spell? Like, you know what I mean? It tends to be more character creation questions, I've noticed, for us. Maybe I don't take enough command of it. And maybe that's part of it.
Maybe. I think
rather
that,
than talking about the campaign.
I think that sometimes people haven't decided what they're going to play. I think sometimes we've played with people who are a little bit more old school in the concept that, hey, we need somebody in like a warrior class. We need
Right.
somebody in a spellcasting capacity. We need some sort of cleric. We
Party
need a rogue.
composition.
Like they have this real concern for it, which I don't think you really need if you're playing, like, especially playing in like one of your games. Like, you really don't need that. Like,
yeah, 'cause I don't
that's
care.
not a concern that you have. Like, if you're playing in a game and you're obviously missing some sort of aspect, then either you hire that out as an NPC,
One option.
or as a DM, like, you adapt to that situation and you just give them alternative methods. Like, you
Or
allow
you
for this to be broken into.
the like no healer. Okay, so don't throw wave after wave of monster at them. Like, you just lighten the encounters a little bit.
Right,
Because
some healing
now
potions or
dropping to
whatever.
0 hit points isn't like, that's dire rather than like now we're suspenseful. No, the suspense when you have no healer is when you're low on hit points now rather than being dropped to 0.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a healer, it's like once you're dropped, now there's suspense from that scenario. So you don't have to do as much then. Or if, you don't have a rogue. Awesome. I'm just going to put a locked door here that you guys can't get through no matter what. Just because, just to mess with you sometimes. Like, well, if you can come up with a way to get it open, great. But, yeah, I know the cricket.
Yeah, there's a cricket in here.
No, it's not
Is
in
it
here. That one's outside. The other day we had one in here. You can hear because it like has an echo almost to it when it's in here. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like right by the door, I think.
Are you sure it's not in
Positive.
here?
Yeah, because there was one in here like 4 nights ago, and it sounds way different when it's in here. Can you guys hear that? But
Okay,
anyways.
anyway.
So,
So, Noble.
yeah, so
Is that what
from...
we're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So,
I forgot.
it's okay. It doesn't matter. So, what I was saying was, though, man, how did we got really off track, didn't we, somehow?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I don't know how that happened.
It's
Because
not
I was
my
letting you
fault.
talk, and then I drank some water, and then I came back, because we were talking about, because we're talking about session 0.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of comes up in my session zeros. And I've tried to ask some of our players, well, what kind of games are you into? What is it that interests you about this? Sometimes they say, I really like role play, but that means something different to other people. Like, some people
Everybody.
think that means I like more social encounters. And other people think I just like it when everybody's describing all their actions really in depth and with flowery, visuals of it.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to talk about something different,
go ahead.
but I decided I'm going to talk about something else.
Different and something else
So
are the same
I
thing.
was going to talk about something different than what I'm going to talk about now.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean.
Gotcha.
Sorry, that was probably confusing. So you were talking about Brian's character and having a noble background.
Yes.
And obviously, I think that's, the first thing that comes up when people think about, noble is, the noble background, noble characters, and that type of thing. But, so I'm going to kind of, spin off that a little bit.
Okay.
How much consideration do you give to picking a background that fits the theme of your character? Do you spend a lot of time thinking about what background you want your character to have? Do you sort of just not care about your background? I feel like every player I've met has either been oh, my background is really, really important, which is kind of the side that I'm on. Or they're kind of just oh, my background's whatever, it's not a big deal.
I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on it. But yeah, it definitely is something I put a little bit of thought into. I try to make it before I make a character, and this is why it was so hard to make a character for Tomb of Annihilation. Remember when we did that once? Mm-hmm. I try to have a concept going in. So if I don't have a concept, that's when I'll spend more time because I'm like trying to figure it out. And if I'm tired, like right now, if I was trying to make a character, it would be very difficult. But when I know what I want to make conceptually, it's easy. You know, and it might be I'm going to take the scout from the background, which is really a soldier with the scout option. But maybe to try and get like some of the same feel, I'm going to go with the ranger because that makes more sense to me if I want to play a scout type of character or a rogue. I might go, hey, I'm going to play a rogue assassin that's not really a rogue assassin. It's really, in my mind, what I would envision a ranger to be without spells.
Right.
You know, so I might do that and be like, I'm an elven ranger, just using the class, the rogue assassin, as the abilities that I'm reskinning. But, you know, so I might do that and then take a background like hermit rather than the scout or the outlander instead. You know, something like that. That thematically fits, but isn't like too far out there that it doesn't make sense.
Oh, okay.
For me. But it usually doesn't, it's not something I spend a ton of time in. Like if I'm going to be a fighter, there's a good chance I'm going to take something like a soldier or a noble or the gladiator or something. Like that. Something like that. Maybe not the folk hero. That to me is more like a bard. Okay. But I like the gladiator spin on it.
Okay.
So I'll sometimes take that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it depends. But I usually, when I have my concept and I know what I want to do, I run with it. Like the barbarian, I was like, I think I went with noble because I was like, okay, this makes sense. I was older because I'm a Goliath. I kind of got pushed out of my tribe, kind of thing like that. However, I was still plenty strong. Still was going to get stronger. You know, and so it just made sense to how I wanted to play it. And I think in that I wasn't kicked out. I think I was actually a gladiator.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was kind of... And maybe
that was what you were going
for. You know, in fact, I didn't even go with the noble background. I just said I was a gladiator, but I was, like, high up in my tribe.
Yeah.
Like, before I even knew anyone, there was a noble in the group. But because my tribe had been, like, killed off, I didn't have any of the noble, like... I didn't have the retainers or the things from the noble background.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like a lot of people just, like... You know, oh, I'm, you know, this character, like, I'm a ranger, so I need to be, like, an outlander. And I'm a, you know...
I'm a cleric, so I'm also an acolyte.
Yeah. Like, well, you don't know.
I'm a wizard, so I'm a scholar.
Yeah. Like, no, you don't have to be. Mm-hmm. Like, is that an option?
I'm a swashbuckler rogue, so therefore I'm a pirate.
Do that. Yeah, but you can change it up a little bit and make the backgrounds a little bit more flexible as well. I think people overlook that.
Some of the backgrounds have some terrible bonds and flaws. Not terrible, but it doesn't work for what I want.
Yes, but
so sometimes
you should look through that, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, usually I look at, like, what other things does it give me?
Which D&D Beyond makes it really easy to do that. I made, like, 12 characters in 30 minutes for my game at Grand Con.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. It was easy.
Super fast?
Like, and they're all level 5, too. That's the other thing. So they're not, like, base level. I picked spells, everything. Oh. Like, 30 minutes.
Nice.
So go get D&D Beyond.
But I feel like I'll go through and like look for something like, oh, this has this additional advantage that I want, and so then I'll just pick that.
Yeah,
and
you would choose by that.
Right, because that's what I do.
Right.
That's who I am. It's fine.
Power. I'm gonna start calling her as Paul said. I should call her Power. Good job, Power. Or someone else said I should call her PGP. Power Gamer Paula.
Oh,
on
that's
Twitter.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I'm trying to come up with a name for our podcast. So I was like, what could we call it? And I was thinking about calling it like RPG Talk with Juice, Power Hour with Paula. And then like someone was like, oh yeah, or you could call it this, and like anyways.
Yeah.
Musings with Juice and Power Gamer Paula, or Power Paula, or something like that.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. PGP.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it. It's gonna catch on.
Well, originally he said Power Paula, and I was like, we already have a PP because my last name's Patterson. So we don't need her to be PPP. You down with PPP? Yeah, you know me. Power Paula. Anyways.
Okay, anyway, so I think that's a good one, though. But I like to kind of look at what it's going to give me and then take the background and somehow incorporate it into a character with this background, with this, you know, class. Like, what do they look like? What kind of background would make it so that the entire thing would jive? And I think that makes it more interesting too, because it's going to make it a little bit more random, a little bit more unique versus having a concept and then building out. Right. I like to kind of
the backgrounds for you help you roleplay too. Yes. I've noticed. Like, I don't know if they help me necessarily. I think I just roleplay how I roleplay. It is what it is. But I've noticed, like, first time we played, you were like, I don't want to pick a background. That's stupid. I was like, you get mechanical things. And you're like, it's still stupid. But okay. You hated it at first. Because you, again, coming from, I think, 2nd and 3.5, where you were literally just a bag of paper with stats. I don't know, but I've noticed since that first one, you've seemed to embrace it a lot more.
Yeah.
But it pulled stuff out of you. Like, I remember once you picked things or rolled things or whatever happened, you were like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. Like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm a this. Like, you added depth to your character before we ever played.
Yeah.
Because you used to be like, I don't want to come up with anything about my character beforehand. I'll figure it out as I go.
Well, no. Okay.
Yes.
So, like, one of the first times that we played, and you were like, if you want to write up a background, you can, but I'm not going to read anything that's longer than 3 pages.
No, more than 1 page.
And I was like, the fuck am I going to write? That's 3 pages long.
There's people who write books.
There is no chance. Like, I'll give you a paragraph summary.
You wouldn't even do that.
You get 4 short sentences.
No. I gave her a series of questions that she wouldn't even answer in character.
Like,
that was it.
All I'm saying.
I think I told you to pick 3 questions and answer.
I swear to fucking God that cricket is in here.
We'll find out.
I can't handle it.
We'll look in a minute.
Okay, so...
He does this every night.
Anyway, you need to, like, catch that cricket and, like, put him
I tried, and it went into, like, a crack, like, where we didn't do the seam yet.
Oh.
Where we're going to caulk. Yeah,
gotcha.
No big deal.
Okay, so, sorry. But, yeah, I was like, that's just way too much background for me. Like, I will give you a short synopsis of my character if you want some sentences about my character. But I am not writing more than just a couple paragraphs.
She wasn't
At first, no, I wasn't going to. But
I've never
been asked to.
Well, I didn't ask her to. Well, because I didn't know anything about her character, I was trying to, because this was that Heroes game, I was trying to, like, come up with things that I could make interesting for each character. And she wouldn't answer any questions.
It's fine now. Whatever.
Even verbally, she wouldn't answer the questions.
I'm over it. I'm beyond it.
So anyways, this was Master the Game. I am Juice. This is Paula. Be sure to hammer the like button, smash that subscribe button, leave a comment about noble backgrounds, backgrounds in general, any of that good stuff that we've discussed in this video. And we will see you guys next time. Game on.